Welcome back to. Ha, jeez. Oh, God. Welcome back to Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and it's been a while, I freely admit. So, sometimes when you're not doing these things like on a professional full time basis, things can get in the way. So, I've had a lot of stuff going on, but I have not forgotten you, and I've not forgotten this channel, and I have not forgotten John Romita Jr. and his horrific run on Spider Man. Nor have I forgotten this garbage, but we'll try to keep it contained today. So yes, we've got the Amazing Spider-Man, number 7, and it is by Zeb Wells again and John Romita Jr. And we're back to garbage. So honestly, last time I had a video, we had Spider-Man number 900, which was terrifyingly boring and really didn't serve much of a purpose. We brought back some kind of robot from the 60s because nostalgia, right? A lot of people like to say that current Spider-Man films and stuff like that are nostalgia bait, right? And they're trying to trick you into going to their crappy movies. But it's kind of like they've bled that into the comics when they're trying to give you nostalgia bait for things that you never knew existed in the first place. It's not a good policy. What's that Iron Man clip? Not a good idea. So yeah, we're back to the same old garbage again. We're back to Peter being a jerk, and we're back to things that don't make any sense. So again, if you've been following this particular volume of Spider-Man or The Amazing Spider-Man, we've been dropped 6 months after something happened, and we don't know what happened. All we know is that there was a big steaming crater and Peter was beat up, and then we fast forward to Peter being an ass and everybody not liking him for a good reason. I mean, quite frankly, he's an ass in this run of Spider-Man. And, I don't really know what they're trying to do other than irritate and bore people to death. And so we had this reprieve in the last issue, which was 900, Legacy 900. And it was just a very long, terrible book that didn't really do anything to move the story forward. It was kind of like a mini adventure, right? And it didn't really reset the story. We're still back into the main story again that doesn't really seem to be going anywhere. So we're back to Norman Osborn again, being a good guy, allegedly, or at least being friendly with Peter. And we just don't know if he's got ulterior motives or not. And we're just being strung along because, that's what everybody likes to be, is strung along on a comic book that they're paying $4 for. So, at this point, it's like, let's see, we're 7 issues. It's 4. That's $28 plus the, I guess, what was it, $9? The last one, $10. It was $10, right? So we're at $38 or $40 in. We still have Peter being an ass. And, I just don't know why you would want to read this book. Honestly, unless you were just like a completionist, I can't really recommend this book other than to come watch my channel and listen to me bitch about it. I think that's really the entertainment value. And that's free. So, but anyway, there's not really much to say. We have an opening here where we have the Vulture and his granddaughter is saying that she knows who he is and what he did in the past. And then the Vulture gets this idea that for some reason Peter Parker or Spider-Man was the one that told her this. This is unclear. It's not really explained. It's just the Vulture decides to go after Peter Parker randomly, apparently, thinking that he's somehow set his granddaughter against him. I don't know. It's not really explained because why would we want anything explained in this? So meanwhile, Peter is going to Oscorp and Norman Osborn is offering him a job yet again for the trillionth time, it seems like. And so he goes in there and he's meeting him, and then Mary Jane shows up, right? And do we have any kind of, closure or explanation to what's going on with Peter and Mary Jane? Of course not. And so Osborn's got Peter in Oscorp here, and he's trying to offer him a job. And in the middle of this, we have Kamala Khan show up and drop something for no reason, apparently. I guess maybe we want people to watch Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus, but there does not appear to be a real reason for Ms. Marvel to be here, or Kamala Khan anyway. Peter and Mary Jane kind of bump into each other here, and Norman apparently set this up, I guess. I don't know. But Peter is very upset about the fact that he thinks that Norman's trying to get in his head, right? Furthermore, Mary Jane's husband shows up, and then they're all friendly with Peter again, and it doesn't really make any sense. I don't know what the relationship is between these three right now, other than Apparently the guy thinks that Peter is harassing Mary Jane, and the Mary Jane's this guy's wife, and I don't care. I don't like it. Really, that's the bottom line. I don't like it, right? I'm not enjoying it. It's not fun. I don't want to spend, months and months and months and months with this garbage going on because it's stupid. It's irritating. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know why he's with Mary Jane. I don't know why they have kids. None of it makes any sense. Peter is just being an irritable jerk, and so I could get into what exactly goes on here, but suffice it to say, Peter is very upset that he bumped into MJ and then comes in yelling at Norman, and then Norman decides to pull out his secret compartment with a Spider-Man costume in it. And then for whatever reason, we jump back into the Vulture thing, and Vulture's scoping out the skyline, and then he spots Spider-Man, and then he goes and grabs him and then starts to beat the snot out of him. He's accusing Spider-Man of somehow turning his granddaughter against him, and why? No one knows. Nobody cares, And so anyway, so that's pretty much the synopsis for it. It's not a great book, right? It's more the same. It's more of not really getting anywhere. It's more of kind of rehashing stories that we've seen before, and then the stories that aren't rehashed are stories that we don't want to read, and it's just a bad book, and it just continually sucks. I'm sorry, it just does. Maybe you like it. Okay, you and I have different tastes, but let's get into the art, right? Because at least there's good art. Of course there's not good art. Why would there be good art in this? So let's start off with the first page. The last panel on the first page, we have Tiana, and she's with a Vulture, and we've got two of my favorite things about John Romita Jr.'s present art. Microscopic eyes and faces that don't make any sense, right? So we have the Vulture's eyes, super tiny, weird, and I guess honestly it could kind of work for the Vulture, considering that he's the Vulture, and I might let it pass, except for the fact that Romita does this a lot with a lot of different characters, so it's bad. And so then we got Tiana, and again, her face, it looks like a giant potato. It's terrible. That's that particular panel. And we've got more on the second page. We have Vulture here, and he's crying, and I don't know what, I honestly don't know what kind of tears John Romita Jr. is familiar with, but this doesn't look like tears. I'm going to leave it to you to imagine what you think this looks like, but it doesn't look like tears to me. So I'm not going to say anything else. It's just entirely up to what you think. I'll let your interpretation run wild with that. So again, the art is just bad. Back up to the first panel on the second page. Again, we've got these massive cheekbones. I mean, you could land aircraft on the cheeks of these characters, and it's not like they're just normal natural cheekbones. They're just cartoonishly, freakishly large, and it doesn't make any sense. It just looks awful. It really does. So then we've got Norman. I don't know why, but we got to have cornrows on Norman Osborn. I mean, the dude it doesn't make any sense to me, but I digress. Peter looks actually pretty decent for the first couple of pages, but then we switch to this particular page where Mary Jane shows up, right? Mary Jane shows up on this page, and the second panel here, what the hell is going on with Peter's chin? I don't know. His lips are like literally like right on the edge of his face, and he has no chin. One of the big things when you're drawing superheroes is you want to give them nice big square jawlines, and you don't want them to have mealy mouth kind of wishy-washy faces, but this is what Peter has here. He's got these massive cheekbones and this chin that completely disappears. It looks terrible. So here's the thing. The next page, we have, again, this is a problem that I saw in the previous issues with Spider-Man, especially in Spider-Man number 5. He had Felicia, and her face was changing every single panel. And we've got the same kind of thing going on here with Mary Jane. Mary Jane is in panel 1 here, and then Mary Jane is in panel 2. That's not the same character. If you'll notice, her cheekbones, her face doesn't look the same. I mean, she's got like a heart shape, and then she's got an oval shape. And it's like, I don't know what it is. I know that John Romita Jr. can draw. Okay? I know he can. I don't know what he's doing here. It just looks bad. I don't know if he's rushed or he's just got something better to do. But it's like, dude, it's like the same panel. It's literally on the same page. Go from one panel to the next and just draw the same thing. I don't know. I mean, dude, get a light board and trace it. Nobody cares, right? Just make sure that it's consistent, and it's just not consistent here. Furthermore, you go to the next page, and then again, look, I just want to show you the contrast here in Mary Jane. This is a 3/4 view of Mary Jane's face right here. Boom, right? And let's go back to the other page, 3/4 view. 3/4 view, 3/4 view, 3/4 view, 3/4 view. I'm just going back and forth on this. Look how inconsistent this is. It's awful. And really, this is just a theme with this book. Faces don't make sense. Even when they do look good, they don't look consistent, and that's a big problem. And again, this is the Amazing Spider-Man. There should be better art, right? And if Romita Jr. just doesn't have the time, or doesn't have enough time, then they need to find a reason to make enough time for him. If we're only going to do even if it's just one book a month, right? They need to take their time to make sure that we're getting fantastic art, because the story sucks, right? So if you're going to make me read a garbage story, you should at least give me fantastic art to look at. Ideally you want great art with great story, but that's just not the case. So we have this really kind of weird sandwich story structure here, where we got the opening with the Vulture and his granddaughter, and then we have the Peter going to visit Norman, and then we cut back to the Vulture trying to spot Peter, and something happens in this book that happens in the worst comic book I've ever read, and I've done a video about this. It was in Action Comics, also drawn by John Romita Jr., and I wanted to blame Bendis for that book, but now when I see it in this book, I'm wondering if it's a John Romita Jr. special. And what I'm talking about here is rotating the book. I do not like to rotate books, right? Very rarely has a book been a rotating situation that it made sense. And that was actually in a Batman book by Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder. And that's not what we see here. We have basically Vulture attacking Peter, and you have to turn the book around, and he's flying up, and he drops him, and the next thing you know, we're left with Peter possibly dying, and then we get a teaser for, in 2 weeks, the funeral of Spider-Man. Bottom line, the art, again, sucks. The story sucks. I don't even know what the hell we're doing here. So, but there you go. Amazing Spider-Man number 7. So, with that said, bonus episode, bonus content, The Edge of Spider-Verse number 1. Is that what it's called? Or no, it's just Edge of Spider-Verse number 1. And this is practically unreadable, right? So we've got a couple different stories here. Now, I told everybody in the previous video that I did that I will not buy a book that has Dan Slott's name on the cover. And this actually is kind of like an anthology kind of thing. Now, I've never read any Edge of Spider-Verse books, but I did see Into the Spider-Verse, which I guess I'm in the minority. I did not think it was that great of a movie. I know a lot of people love the movie. If you like it, great. But I just was bored by it. And Edge of Spider-Verse here is kind of more of the same. I don't care that there's a Scottish Spider-Man in like the 17th or 18th century. It's like, oh God. And that's written by Dan Slott. So I was like, okay, fine. They put this in my box because I subscribe to this other Spider-Man garbage. And so there's like, oh, maybe he would want this. And so I look at it and I'm like, oh God, whatever. It's okay. It's an anthology. I'll read it. But there are a couple different stories in here, and they're just hot garbage. Essentially nothing in this book is worth reading. I thought maybe I remember seeing this image of the T-Rex, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a joke. I didn't think it was actually a real book. And no, I'm wrong. It's right in here. And it's like, I don't even know what to say. This is garbage. It is awful. It truly is. I don't care about any of the characters. I don't care about anything. Honestly, one of the big problems that people have recently with Spider-Man is that there's like this watering down of Spider-Man. It's like everything is Spider-Man. It's like people are upset about DC making everything Bat this and Bat that and all these different Bat books. I don't need 50,000 spider books either, honestly, to tell you the truth. And this is just an exercise in futility. Furthermore, I find out when I get to the end of this and I read their stupid little blurb at the back that this is basically a run up to Dan Slott's Spider-Man book. And again, I'm not going to subscribe to a Dan Slott book until Dan Slott doesn't have me blocked on Twitter, because I never interacted with Dan Slott. I never said anything bad to Dan Slott. I never said that Dan Slott was a bad writer. Somebody that I follow, he ran a blockchain on and blocked me because I follow that person. And frankly, I've got better things to do with my time than read books by someone who doesn't really care to even engage me personally. So, and again, I'm not saying that he needs to engage me personally. The principle of the matter is that you should take people on an individual case by case basis, right? You know, and just because I follow a person that Dan Slott doesn't like, it doesn't mean that I subscribe to the views of that person. It doesn't mean that I'm a cheerleader for that person. It just means that I just happen to follow that person for whatever reason. So again, the Edge of Spider-Verse books are a lead into Dan Slott's Spider-Man book, and I'm not going to read that. I'm not going to buy it. And I will tell you this, I did read this one book, and it's practically unreadable. I hate it. So that's my review for it. I'm not even going to get into the art for it. The art is actually not bad. That's not the problem with it. It's just, it's a lot of Spider-Man stuff, Spider-esque stuff that I don't care about. I could not possibly care any less about it. So there you go. Bonus review. So it's another Spider-Man book that I hate, right? The Amazing Spider-Man #7. Everybody's a jerk. That really should be the subtitle for it. And go pick it up if you dare. If you want to set fire to $4, you can certainly do so. But that's entirely up to you. Again, thanks for watching Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and I'll catch you next time.